You should read The Fault visual novels. That's it. That's the thesis of the video. Only 2,000 Steam reviews? Come on, people, that's a bloody crime! Fault is a series of visual novels from the developer Alice in Dissonance. Presently, 2 titles have been released, with another 2 due out sometime in the foreseeable future. The novels follow the adventures of a princess named Selphine and her bodyguard Retona after an unprovoked attack on their kingdom. Through some sci-fi magic mishap, while fleeing, they end up on the other side of the world and must make their way back home while navigating new countries and cultures. In so doing, they'll encounter unique social and philosophical problems, all backed up by some excellent world-building and characterization. Now, since the intent of this video is as the title says, I'm going to keep my discussion of the various things I find cool about these visual novels relatively light, but not entirely spoiler-free, because that just ain't how I roll, and hopefully once I'm done blabbering in your ear for however many minutes this takes, you'll be tempted to head over to Steam or boot up your Switch and get these things downloaded, because I promise they're worth it. So let me give you a taste of what you're in for, starting with Fault's unique setting. The world of Fault partly operates on this complicated Magitech system called Croft. I say Magitech because it's pretty much magic, but the system is so thoroughly developed and ingrained into the main character's society such that it functions nowhere near identically to, but to the same broad purpose as our modern technology. To be clear, it's still 100% a magic system with all the fantasy weirdness that entails, but the way the narrative considers how such a system would affect a society, both through its presence and its absence, are what make it stand out. For one thing, Croft has been a force for social progress, which becomes apparent when Retona and Selphine are flung to the other side of the world and enter a country where, for reasons I'm not about to dive into, Croft just doesn't work 100%. After touring the local town for a bit, which instead has to rely on this weird thing called electricity to accomplish the same tasks Croft does in a much less efficient manner, Selphine comes to the stark realization that, wait a fucking minute, I think the boys are still in charge. The Croft system allowed their society to move beyond a patriarchal culture. It really tickles my fancy that with Princess Selphine there's none of that trite, faux tragic waxing about, oh, if only there were a male heir to save her poor delicate soul from the fate of rule. Like, nah, fuck that. She's just the heir, that's fine. And then suddenly being thrust into a system where the patriarchy is still the norm, with a whole different culture with a different form of technology, leaves a lot of room for Retona and her charge to explore how technology influences social systems. But even where Croft functions, not all is right in the world, as the second part delves into another country's problems with classism and labor exploitation brought about purely by the Croft system. But before I go too far down that rabbit hole, I'm going to stop myself and backpedal, because back in the first part, the Croft system and its intersection with a more traditional society and its technology enables the narrative to explore a classic philosophical query. What makes a person a person? The underlying philosophical quandary at the heart of the series' first entry is the personhood of its third main character, Rune. Rune is an artificial being, kind of, a product of traditional engineering in Croft, which comes into play in the form of a real person's memories. Pretty much a robot girl with a now-deceased person's memories thrown into her, which, of course, raises a lot of questions. Is she a person? Cue Data being on trial.
Your Honor, Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits.
And if she is a person, is she the same person as the girl whose memories she inherited, the person she was meant to be? Do we have to bring up the continuity of consciousness argument? And what does her personhood mean for her sisters, those like her? These questions, and more, are all explored in some form or another by the text, some answered, some not, but I ain't here to give you those answers, just to raise the questions. And Rune isn't the only vessel through which Fault uses its Croft system to question the nature of personhood. It also does that with Selphine, primarily in the second part. See, Selphine ain't just the queen-to-be, she's all the queens and kings of her kingdom's past. Through the Croft system, the memories and experiences of each of the kingdom's monarchs are passed down to and inherited by the next ruler. And that raises all sorts of questions as to just who exactly Selphine even is. Is she her own person? Or as an amalgamation of people, is she something completely different, something we can't even comprehend? And what sort of existence existence is that, to have all of those memories crowded inside your mind, and regardless of whether we understand it, does that make her any more or less a person? All of this is very reminiscent of another Star Trek thing, the Trill, which are a humanoid race, some of which live a symbiotic existence with creatures just called symbionts, and when the host humanoid body dies, the symbiont is transferred to another host, taking all their memories with them, and the nature of the host-symbiont relationship and whether and to what degree a symbiont with a new host counted as a different or just the same person was a matter of intense debate in the Season 1 Deep Space Nine episode Dax, wherein Jadzia Dax is put on trial for a murder committed by previous hosts. And wait, don't click away from the video, I swear I'm not turning into Mike Suklasa!
Star Trek.
I was going on a tangent there, though. You are right. Though, incidentally, the official Alice in Dissonance Twitter account did post actual real artwork of the main characters of Fault in Starfleet uniforms, so I'm not entirely off base here. Anyway, I guess the overall point is that Fault, despite seemingly being about wacky magic stuff, is actually steeped in the science fiction tradition, using its weird anime magic bullshit to explore well-known sci-fi tropes and philosophical musings on the nature of being. And that's pretty cool. And wow, for a quick recommendation video, I sure haven't hit on any of the points people usually go to this kind of video for. Let's list off those points real fast. The novel's presentation is stellar. Far from your usual visual novel fare, these titles make use of relatively dynamic camera work and a fair number of what are referred to in the genre as event CGs to keep things visually engaging. The artwork is stellar, the soundtrack's good, and the characters are all fun and endearing, and yeah, that's that. I only have one caveat to stick onto my otherwise glowing recommendation, which, depending on your point of view, may be either entirely inconsequential or a very big deal indeed, and that one caveat is there's not near enough of it. At present, only 2 entries in the series have been released. 2 are planned for release sometime in the future, but there was already a 2-year gap in between the first 2 releases, and it's been just about 6 years since the last one came out, and on top of all of that, these novels are bloody short. I blew through both entries in just over 3 hours, though I'm a fast reader so your mileage may vary, and once all was said and done, I was left feeling wanting. I need more of this series. I want more of these characters, of this world, but who knows when the hell I'm gonna get it, and even when I do, if the next entry is as short as these, I fear that it'll be over with far too quickly and I'll be stuck with another long wait. But hey, I think if the biggest complaint I can levy against a story is that I wanted more of it, then I think it's safe to say that what was there was good enough to be worth wanting more of. I just ended this video on a preposition. Bastard. Thanks for sitting through my relatively brief ramblings about a visual novel. Let me know if I successfully sparked your interest in these novels, or if you've already played them, what you think of them. I'll probably be getting onto more Precure soon-ish. Until then, thanks again for watching, and don't forget to be gay and do crimes.